Welcome, everybody. Welcome to episode number 123 of Fraternity Foodie. I am your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. We call these episodes Fraternity Foodie because there is nothing like great food to bring people together. Today, we have with us Iggy Perillo, the principal and founder of WSL Leadership Coaching. She wants you to get off the leadership struggle bus already. By joining a mastermind, Iggy can show you how to grow and develop in ways that you didn't even know you needed. So whether you want to transform the world, your team, your chapter, your leadership, or maybe even yourself, a mastermind can give you a powerful boost to make it happen. I can't wait to dive into this important topic for all of our student leaders that are listening to this podcast show right now. Welcome to the show, Iggy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Listen, this is something I've been looking forward to because I love talking about leadership. This whole idea of this mastermind has really kind of taken root recently. So I want to make sure that our audience understands what that's all about. So I can't wait to talk about this particular topic, but I think it's important for our listeners to know where you came from before they understand what you're doing today. So you went to Grinnell College in Iowa for your undergraduate experience. And so I'm dying to know, why Grinnell? Why was that the right choice?
Right. Oh, this is a great question. And thinking back on it, I was living in a very small town at the time when through my senior year of high school. And I knew I liked that sort of small town vibe. I had visited other, the city's fine, whatever, but that just seemed to resonate with me. And what I liked most about Grinnell was that it had a reputation for academic rigor. I'm like, oh, I want to do hard things. I want it to be hard. And the campus is small, small student population compared to a lot of other schools. And I knew that was a good fit for me somehow. But I just liked when I had an opportunity to visit the campus, there were just so many creative things happening everywhere, all over the place. It was a spring. I mean, probably the best time to visit. People are outside on every piece of lawn and grass and like over there on that roof and over here, there's this other thing happening. And it just seemed like a really active and engaged campus with lots of people and fun. And so that just really spoke to me. And that's how I went there. And I was not disappointed. I had an excellent time. So yeah, it just vibed with me, I guess, is like the short answer.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. Sometimes it's just a feeling that you get when you're on campus. And clearly that's what it was with you. You just felt at home, right?
Yeah, definitely. It was I had visited other campuses and there was one, I don't want to name the school, but I visited and I saw someone wearing a tie on the campus. I'm like, nope, you're off the list. So I'm not going anywhere where someone's going to wear a tie. Who knows? They might've been, who knows what was even happening. I mentioned this later to someone who went there. They're like, that's not how it is here. I'm like, okay, well, fine.
That poor guy was probably just going for an interview that day.
Yeah, exactly. That school's dead to me. So
you're dead to me. I'm not even going to consider that school. How dare you wear a tie?
Yeah, it was not the vibe I wanted. Yeah.
So, all right. So you're the principal and founder of this organization called WSL Leadership Coaching. And there you offer many different services, one of which I think is so critical for our audience to understand, is this concept of a mastermind. And so please tell our audience, what is a mastermind?
A mastermind is a structured experience for individuals. So it's an individual learning experience in this group context. If you look at it from the outside, you're like, oh, it's like a bunch of meetings, like cool. But the meetings are structured with a lot of intention to be egalitarian, and they're facilitated so that each person gets their maximum growth and learning from that experience. If you just have a bunch of friends together and you're chatting, you're like, yeah, we talked, it was super fun. Like, cool, you had a bunch of people together talking, or maybe you have a conversation on a topic. But a mastermind focuses that energy. And for me, I cultivate masterminds focused on leadership. So if you are like interested in leadership growth, leadership development, yourself as a leader, expanding your leadership abilities, that I would invite you to join a mastermind and, make sure everything's fit and aligned. And you would be responsible for your own growth and development, like leading yourself into what is most valuable and meaningful to you, but also supporting the other people in that group. So it's both individual learning and growth, super powerful for that, but also this group context where you're connected and inner supported, interleaved with other people pursuing the similar thing. So you are mutually supporting each other. So facilitation, structure, mastermind, powerful growth.
So just a quick follow-up. Do you think that's applicable for college students?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the sort of masterminds, I think the sort of ethos is that they came from this sort of entrepreneurial startup space where you're like, oh, we're all starting up our businesses. We need to get together and not reinvent the wheel all the time. Great. Yeah, absolutely perfect for that type of environment. And I think for leaders on the like sort of rising leadership trend, equally beneficial to have that like, oh, we're sort of in this together. We're new, we're figuring it out. Or, hey, I have this experience, but I've never seen this thing before. You know, I think there's so many facets to leadership, just like entrepreneurship has so many different facets and pieces of it, that newer folks, college students are perfect members for masterminds. I think they would, there's just so much to learn and grow. If you're there to learn and grow, it's going to accelerate that so fast.
I love it. So a lot of the students that are listening right now, they are leaders in their organization. So I'm wondering, from your standpoint, what is the best way for a leader to deal with what we call a problem personality within their student organization?
Oh, absolutely. They're not alone. For step one, you're not alone. Just know that. I think the sort of foundational keys are to be really aware of your assumptions going into this situation. And problem personalities, I think I take a cue from Brene Brown, the amazing author and researcher and storyteller, who talks about how everyone, like assumption number one should be that everyone's doing their best. And I would add everyone's doing their best to meet their needs. So if you start with assuming that everyone's doing their best to meet their needs, and you have this personality and you're like, this is hard for me, like something's not working out. So if they're doing their best and they're trying to meet their needs, the next step is to just get more information to understand what needs they're trying to meet and to actually talk with that person. I mean, this is like not rocket science, but also super intimidating feeling. You're like, oh, this person, like I have this struggle with them. I don't want to talk to them. It's hard. It's, like I feel like the tension. I think approaching it with curiosity really helps, approaching the situation, and curiosity that's not judgmental. Like, why are you such a jerk? Like, that's not going to get you anywhere, right? But a conversation like, hey, I see you doing this behavior. And I would say focus on the behavior versus the person, right? Like if you say, why are you such a jerk, or why are you doing stupid things? People take that very personally. It gets defensive. You're not going to get anywhere with that. But looking at the behavior, hey, I see you doing this thing. Can you tell me more about that? Can you tell me more about this decision you made over here? Can you tell me more about like how this, situation developed, whatever came about? Like, for example, like whatever it is, as specific, as behavior oriented as possible, ask as many questions as you can to start with. You don't need to have answers. I think people feel this tension because they have this problem situation and they feel like they need to have a solution right off the bat. Like, oh, I need to solve this. I need to tell them this, I need to do this and this. We're done. I think the first step is to just open that conversation with curiosity that's unbiased, to like draw that person in to understand more, understand what their needs are, understand how they see their behavior. When you see their behavior as, oh, they're so disruptive and they're really just like making a mess of things, they might see it as like, oh, I'm so creative, I'm really inspiring others. And you're like, whoa, like mismatch of, things there. So yeah, curiosity is like the general first place to go, and being careful about those assumptions.
Yeah, I love how you keep it focused on the behavior as opposed to something personal. And I think the key to all of it really is the one-on-one meeting, right? You don't want to do this in the middle of your group meeting.
Yeah, do not. Do not.
Like, why do I see you do this behavior? Not in a group setting. You want to do this one-on-one. I just want to clarify that for our audience, right?
Good clarification. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. I think that's a great thing because many students struggle with this. I think you're going to experience that as a student. You're going to experience this out in the real world. This never ends, okay?
Never.
So if you can figure this out, this skill of trying to work with these problem personalities by questioning the behavior one-on-one, I mean, you're going to open up all kinds of great paths, I think, forward for your organization. So I think that's a really good thing. And, the other thing that I see, unfortunately, all too often is sometimes students find themselves in what I would call a toxic culture. That could be either in college, that might be even in their careers at some point where something is happening within the organization that can be considered toxic. So how should a leader deal with toxic culture in a team that they find themselves in?
Oh, this is a tough one. I think it takes really bold leadership fundamentally is what is going to be needed in that situation. And I would dial it back to like, what are the behaviors that are not okay that have become okay in this situation? That sort of toxic label is really sort of a cover for a lot of things, like a lot of little behaviors sometimes create this toxic environment. Like, is it really gossipy or really backbitey or really like a place where people steal, the accolades from other people, whatever it is like this, I would kind of focus on the specifics. And then if it's a big organization and you feel like you're all alone in it, I would try to find a couple allies and supporters who you're like, yeah, this is really gossipy and I don't like it. Like, do you agree? Okay, great. We're both on the same page with this. Now we need to start addressing this behavior one piece at a time. And if this behavior is okay in this environment, and I don't think it's okay, I need to say something and do something about it, that this behavior is actually not okay with me in this environment. And the more people you get on board with you, the better it's going to be. You get some momentum going, get some change happening. But I think it can be tough. It can feel really lonely if you're in an environment where people are really backstabby and you're like, oh, I'm the only one and I'm afraid and I don't want to say anything. I might be new here. I don't have a lot of power in the situation. I don't, I'm the, new kid. I'm not in the leadership, official leadership chain. I mean, that I think can make it harder, which is why it really helps to have a buddy or an ally or two that are going to be like, yeah, I don't like this either. We need to do something about it. Whatever we can do within our power to address behavior by behavior. And I think that's for maybe like folks that are newer. If you were the leader of this organization, if you found yourself in one of these leadership roles, you've inherited it, you just got elected in and you're like, oh, whoa, everything is kind of toxic here. I didn't really know, I saw this piece of it. Maybe you don't see the underlying kind of rot sometimes in organizations until you get to a leadership role. I mean, that really is a huge opportunity to take a firm stand and be like, this was okay in the past. It's not okay anymore. We used to act like this. We used to think this was funny. We used to think this was a joke. We used to think this was okay. And really, I'm going to have to say it's not. And here's how I want us to behave in the future. Here's, I think if you're in that leadership role, you get to set the tone and cast the vision on how I want things to be, how I want things to feel for people here. I want people to feel excited to be here. I want people to feel like they can be creative and be themselves versus fearful of, gossip behind their back, whatever it is, like kind of those specific behaviors. And so addressing how you want people to feel in the end can really help as a leader to describe that, and empowering everyone. I think people in an organization might look to the leader and be like, oh, they're going to fix it for me. Woo, they just got elected in. No problem. I'm done. They can solving it. Culture is everyone's problem and everyone needs to be a part of the, resolving, changing and evolving culture. So being specific, if you were in that leadership role, about what you want your people to do, like, hey, if you see anyone engaging in this behavior, I want you to say, like, that's not cool with me. I want you to say, this is not going to fly here anymore, or just to redirect people. Like, that's how we used to do things. Here's how we're doing things now. And if everyone in your organization can say that, everyone in your group can use those words and be empowered to do that, you're going to see a lot of change happen and people will be happier. People don't really want to be in a toxic situation, but I think they don't know how to deal with it. And they don't quite have the words or the foundation under them to make change happen. So as a leader, you get to make that foundation for folks.
That's great points. I loved every bit of it. I hope everyone listening rewinds and listens to that answer one more time to make sure they don't miss any of those nuggets that you just dropped. I think that is absolutely fantastic. And another thing that I hear all the time within the fraternity sorority community, within the college community, and it's just the dynamic that they're in. Here you have a bunch of 19, 20, 21-year-old students. Everybody's going off in their own directions. Okay. And so what I hear often from the students is, my fraternity, my sorority is being pulled in a million different directions and we never get anything done. So how do we help these organizations and these leaders?
I think there's this sort of inertia that happens in organizations, especially if there's sort of turnover from year to year. You get some new people in, some people, are moving through, and you sort of rest on what has been done in the past and sort of the systems of the past, but also you're resting on the values and goals of the past in some way. And so I would encourage folks to be really intentional with every new year, every new organizational body, every time your group is reconstituted, new people are elected in, new people move into different roles, to be intentional about looking at what your organizational values and priorities are. I think this is like inertia that we're like, oh yeah, we're this kind of group, so this is what we do. Now, wait, what, we sort of have lost the focus. And so having this conversation with all of the members, having this type of conversation with all of your leadership team can really help clarify things. Like, oh, we're used to be known for this thing over here, but is that who we are anymore? Are we still those people? Are we still focused on this thing when we were like, oh yeah, but really our energy is moving this way? but we used to do this, so we kind of have to do this old thing, but we kind of want to do this new thing. Oh, wait, now we're pulled 1,000 ways because people expect this. It's really easy to see how that happens. And I think people or now organizations and leaders don't always make the time because it feels like going backwards. Like, oh yeah, we all know we have that poster over there that shows our values and our goals and our setup. Like we can just look at the poster, like, it's here, it's done already. I don't think that work is ever really done, especially when you have turnover in leadership, turnover in membership. I would revisit those conversations. Like, are these still our values? Are these actually still our goals? And these people in this room right now, what are our priorities for this group right here, right now, this year? I work with athletes sometimes and on teams where there's team turnover, and like you would think like, well, they're athletes, they want to win, like that's the goal. But I think how that gets done and how they strategically prioritize how to win for them actually does change year over year, even though it seems obvious, like more points than everyone else. Like, yeah, that does seem obvious, but the reality is, and I think this kind of goes back to culture a little bit when we were talking about toxic culture. How is this group of people going to do this thing right now for us in the next year, in the next, 6 months, in the next whatever quarter, however you are like defining your sort of period of time? I would just revisit those seemingly basic but crucial conversations around values, around goals, and around priorities. Man. And those are hard to do. And yeah, and it's worth doing.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think it's super important. And I think it's important for us as leaders to ask our members, what is their dream for the organization? What is your dream? Tell me right now, what is your dream? Because if we go around the room, number one, we're going to realize that not everybody has the same dream.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, it's all
surprise.
Over the map.
Yeah.
Surprise. And so we can't treat everybody the same. I think that's the moral of the story there. And then number two, I think that becomes the way that we motivate them all year long is we keep going back. If we took good notes and we know what motivates them and what their goal is, then we can figure out how to motivate them to help us, right?
Sure.
To get them to help us in our efforts.
Well, yeah, and that gets everyone on the same page too.
Yeah.
If once you find that someone's like really that people are focused on very different things, which is it happens all the time. Like people are like, oh yeah, they signed up for this thing, they know what they're getting into. They have no idea. I mean, they have some idea, but not like there's actually a wide variety of like alignments around how to do that thing that you're going to do, like how to win, how to be the organization you want to be. So it's totally worth having those conversations. Exactly what you were saying.
I love it. So my good friend, his name is TJ Sullivan. He wrote this book called Motivating the Middle. And it's a great book that he wrote about student organizations. And I recommend it to everybody. In the book, he talks about thirds. He talks about that you have your top third of the organization that typically are the leaders that do all of the work, right? Then you have your bottom third members and, basically they're not helping you at all. They're the ones who are complaining to leadership. They want to just show up for the parties, and then everything else they're like, I'm out.
Right. Not on the cleanup crew. Nope, don't have time for that. Yeah.
And then you have your middle third, right? And so we can't forget about the middle third. And he talks most of the book about how do we motivate that middle third. And so my point in saying all of this is that clearly, leaders are going to have some members of the organization that are just not on board with the team purpose, with the team vision. What do we do with these members who are just not on board with the team purpose?
That is great. In some environments, you fire them, to be honest, or you get fired. Like that is what's going to happen out there. And I don't know that you are always in a position to be like, you're out, kick people out. That's maybe appropriate. But I think before you get to that, if you're like, is to be really intentional about your energy. I love this book you were just referencing about the people who are like activated, they're energized a little bit. They maybe just need some direction. They maybe just need a little piece of motivation. They need something to hook into to sort of direct their energy toward. Fantastic. We're focusing your energy and time on them. The folks that are not on board at all, there's sort of two paths, like the fire them path / ignore them path / no energy to them path, which sometimes works, situationally, maybe the right choice or not. But I think another option is to go back to that idea of curiosity. Like, why are you actually here? Why did you join this organization? Like, what is that you're looking for? What are your needs that are not being met? And those are maybe some more individual conversations. And I think those folks that the sort of squeaky wheels, right, that are, down there and there's like, oh, all you have is complaints. All you have is like telling me this isn't go right. Or like, oh, all you have is like, it's a suggestion for something we could have done better, which really means we didn't do it right the first time. Like these sort of kind of passive aggressive comments. They come off as passive aggressive sometimes. I would, get into to a good conversation with these folks about what their needs are and how they are seeing their behavior again. I mean, sometimes it's this back to the problematic personality world we were just in. Sometimes it's the culture of like, oh wait, these folks have been ignored for too long. There is this like little contingent of squeaky wheels that are like, one person says something, but 20 people are thinking that same thing kind of thing, but they're just going to see what happens if they let the one person, be the sort of sacrificial lamb to like speak up. Like maybe they do have a great point. Maybe they are speaking to something that it doesn't seem to align, but like has resonance with what you're actually doing. Like, oh, we're always ignoring this one piece of, whatever we're doing. We're always ignoring this one population. We're all, they might be trying to articulate something that you're missing. And so understanding what they're trying to say, understanding what their actual need is. And I think sometimes you're in this position of educating people around what their role is in the organization. Like, I think people don't think there's too many chefs in the kitchen when they think, oh yeah, but we're all chefs here. It's amazing. Cool. Your role in this organization is to be not the chef. Like we actually do need dishwashers. We actually do need, different roles to be played. And sometimes that's on your leadership to articulate what the role is and what you expect from folks. Right. Like, yeah, we want you to bring up ideas, or, hey, we want you to bring up ideas, but over here, like in this, to give people some direction and structure. Because I think folks sometimes are like, well, I don't know how I fit in or what my role is. So I'm going to default to just being the squeaky wheel, I guess, or the devil's advocate, and which sometimes those roles are needed, but sometimes they just seem to be wearing things down. And like as a leadership, people in leadership, sometimes you're like, ugh, oh no, not them again. Like if you have that feeling, oh no, not them again, like there's something wrong with role alignment, but also maybe with goal alignment. If you went through this practice of understanding your goals and your priorities and your values for your organization, maybe they're just not in line with those. Like if you're not in line with the values of the organization, this is not a good fit for you. If you're not in line with the priorities of the organization, like maybe there's some wiggle room. Like we can talk about how to fit your needs into the priorities we do have, perhaps. But if there's some sort of foundational mismatch, like maybe you're just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I mean, sometimes we see that with the senior members within college. If you're a senior, sometimes you disengage from the organization. And so I think for leaders, I think it's just important to make sure that we give jobs to everybody, that they feel like they have a role. Because sometimes you might get to senior year and then just say, well, I have no role any longer in this organization. And that's where I think we lose some of them. And ultimately, I think if they're not going to be engaged in their senior year, then they're probably not going to be good alumni for us. They're probably not going to come back and contribute and donate and give their time. They're probably not going to do any of that. So it's on us as leaders to make sure that everybody has a role. I think it's
well, that's a great point. Sort of the graduating senior, or the seniors that like their eyes are on graduation less than on college anymore. And I think there's this cool part of a lot of campuses, they have like emeritus faculty, right? And so they were faculty and they're still connected, but it's like a special relationship. Like, oh, you're emeritus. Oh, cool. Versus like, oh, you're just that, has been. Like, like there, I think are ways to, bring those people back in and make them feel connected to the level that they're able to, right? If you're, doing job interviews and like really have your energy outward going other ways, I think there's probably still place for people if their values and goals still align. They've aligned for the past 3 years. Why not this year too? Right. I think there's still probably some connection and affinity there, I bet.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. I like that professor emeritus type of analogy. I think we need to figure out how to do more of that within our student organizations, as our seniors have their eyes on the prize and are looking on the exit door when they have the most amount of knowledge and experience to share with the younger members. You know what I mean? I don't want that to leave the room. I need to get into your brain and absorb all of it before you walk out the door.
Yeah, I think it's such an opportunity for them to be good mentors and to work on their mentorship skills and abilities and their coaching skills and abilities versus their sort of learning and leading. And now moving on to like mentoring and coaching others, I think is a huge opportunity and a growth area for them too. I feel like people are their happiest when they're pushing that like growth and learning edge a little bit. If you've been, a leader for a while, now you're coaching another leader or now you're mentoring another leader, fantastic way to keep your skills growing and learning and developing and also help your organization at the same time.
Amen. Amen. Now, I'm a CEO of a company that has 14 speakers in it. I'm always looking to learn. I am a lifelong learner. I don't ever in a million years think that I know everything. Clearly, I don't. And I think the more I learn, the more I realize how much more I have to learn, if that makes any sense.
Oh, I'm with you on that, 100%.
So how can I, as the CEO of the company, how can I be a better leader?
Well, I think as a lifelong learner, what I can guess about you is that you've figured out how you learn the best, I suspect. Like, I think you figured out if you like podcasts, if you like books, if you like articles, if you like one-on-one conversations, if you like different types of things. So I would recommend two things. One is to lean into what you like the best already. I'm a big book reader. I mean, I could read books all day, every day and just be like, I'm soaking it in. This is great. That's not going to work for everyone. Some people are, that's just not how they want to learn. So lean into what you're doing. And I would say also, I know you're going to be like, oh, we saw this coming. I would say join a mastermind, because that's going to challenge you and push you to grow in ways maybe you didn't know or need, because it's this supportive group environment. So you're being held up, but also being pushed at the same time and being held accountable. So I think finding a group like a mastermind that really is very personal to you. Like, you can read a book or you can take a workshop or you can do these things, but they're all someone else's agenda. And a mastermind is fundamentally your own agenda and focused on what you as an individual needs. So I think that is where it's a little bit different than reading or listening or taking in someone else's content, if this makes sense. So you get to drive the content and fine tune and create an experience for yourself that is going to push you to learn and grow in ways that are really specific to you and like super tailored to you as an individual. So I would do sort of a mix of both of those things also as a learner and grower myself.
I love it. That is excellent, excellent, excellent. Now, we all want to have really easy work environments. We all really want to have really easy relationships in our life. So how do we create work environments and relationships that are less stressful?
The short answer is deal with it. I know you're like, fine. But I think the stress comes from not dealing with the situation. Like, that's where our stress and our anxiety builds up, because we're like, oh, there's this thing, this culture, this person, this situation, this performance review, whatever it is coming up that I'm like, I'm dreading, that dread is that stress with that relationship or with that environment. And so I think there are lots of ways to support people in the deal with it is like the most glib thing you could possibly say, but like to deal with it can be harrowing for people. And like, oh, what do I say to my boss? What do I say to my leadership? What do I say to this person? Or what do I, how do I do this thing? And I think that's where getting some support for how to do this really helps, or some structures or some systems. And there's like a million YouTube videos and books and articles and ways to be like, well, how do I confront someone in this situation? How do I advocate for myself in this situation? How do I deal with this, something similar? So there's a lot of options for finding, a method, a step-by-step process. I think there are ways like that make people feel more confident going into a conversation. But way back to the beginning broadly, like being curious, asking questions, engaging conversation. I think those are ways to build relationships, but also structure the environment so that you're doing things and things are evolving and happening at the same time. So you're not just stagnating, feeling that stress and pressure sort of crushing you.
I love it. Very, very cool. Now, I want everybody on my team to do their best work. I mean, to me, that is my goal as the CEO, as the founder of the organization. So what do the people in my organization need to know in order to do their best?
Well, I think again, I'm going to start with the simple and it gets more complicated, but there's really, my mantra is don't practice crap. Like, whatever you practice and do over and over again is what you're going to perfect. And if you engage in somewhat crappy behavior repeatedly, that's really what you're going to perfect in a lot of ways. So being intentional about doing things well. There's this other great phrase I like, which is do it right or do it twice kind of thing. Like, cool, I'm going to try and do it right the first time. It's also lazier that way because I don't have to do everything twice. But I'm going to try to do my best, 1% better, a tiny bit of improvement. Like, what I think there are sort of different mindsets around how to drive improvement and drive growth. But I think fundamentally to do my best, I need to be looking for ways to do my best. Like, I need to be looking for ways, like, what is optimal for this situation? What is the best way to engage in this conversation, to do my job, to file my papers, to, take care of the responsibilities I have. I think looking for those ways and practicing not doing them in a crappy way will set you up far better down the road to just build these good habits, build these good positive mindsets, growth mindsets, which I think set you up for success infinitely down the road versus like, well, I'm just going to kind of sweep this one under the rug and I'm going to do a crappy job here because I know I'm going to focus over here. Like, cool, maybe. But in reality, you're practicing doing something crappy or you're practicing doing something sort of in a lazy way. I know we don't have infinite energy for everything. Obviously, we can't give 100% to everything all the time. Our brains will explode. But being intentional about how we're going to do our best at the different situations, and maybe your best at a situation is like 50% of your potential. Like we can only do so much sometimes. But being intentional and thoughtful about it versus letting things devolve into like half efforts.
Iggy, this has been so helpful for our student leaders. You have no idea. I know they're going to get so much value out of this. But of course, we do have one question here. We love good food here at Fraternity Foodie. So I need to know, what is your favorite restaurant in Portland, Oregon? And what do you usually order over there?
This is so hard in some ways. I'm actually a kind of cook at home person, and Oregon is very into the food carts here. So I'm going to give you a food cart recommendation, which is Ochoa Lupitas. And it's a little bit kind of hole in the wall-y, hard to find a little bit, but it's a Mexican food cart. And I just got a carnitas burrito there that was amazing. So that's what I'd say. Find Ochoa Lupitas if you're in town.
Oh my God, that sounds absolutely delicious. I haven't left my house in almost a week now. Last time I left my house was on Friday because of the snowstorms that have hit the South. And that sounds so delicious right now. I'm literally like salivating thinking about this burrito. Like, how do I get it now and eat it?
They cater. Maybe they can cater in Nashville. I don't know.
I don't know. That sounds delicious. Next time I'm in Portland, you better believe I'm going to find this food truck and make that happen. So, all right. So if our student leaders, if our new professionals that are listening right now, if they want to join a mastermind or they want to schedule a workshop with you, what's the easiest way for them to learn more and to connect with you?
I would say I would send folks to my website first. You're going to find tons of information, upcoming workshops, upcoming masterminds, upcoming opportunities that are like webinars, all the stuff I do. And that is WSLleadership.com. And you can contact me through there too. My email's in there, everything. Yeah, I definitely love taking questions and conversations. So if people are not sure what you're looking for, feel free to start a conversation. I would love to connect.
I love it. Iggy, this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for your time. This has been absolutely amazing. And for our audience, if you liked Iggy's conversation and you think that others are going to have some value from it, please like it, share it, send it to them so that way they can listen to what Iggy has to say about masterminds, about leadership, about stress, and all of the wonderful things that she gave us some really good tips on. I mean, just go back and listen to this again, because that's what I'm going to do, because there were so many good nuggets and I want to make sure I catch each one of them before they hit the ground. I think that's fantastic. So thank you so much for your time, Iggy. This has been awesome.
Thanks so much, Michael. It's been great chatting with you today.
Excellent. All right. To our listeners, thank you so much for listening. And we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie. Bye for now.